This is a film that demands action. It reveals that we may have been living with a lethal hidden terror. Tonight we examine for the first time the power of what scientists are calling Joyous Dödsschmerz. Literally, joyous killing death pain. It is a story with global ramifications, taking us from the icy wilderness of the Finnish tundra, via Leicester, to the uncharted territories of the crazed mind of a mental lunatic. Dr. Richard Kimball, a specialist at the Insane Psychopathology Department of the University of Helsinki Neuroscience Centre, believes that far from being the random acts of deadly idiots, that these lethal performances have a deadly common factor.
But the recent CCTV footage has allowed us to pinpoint subjects more easily.
His numerous critics argue that his theory isn't sound, but as his footage reveals, we may in fact be in the grips of a stealth epidemic of gigantic and deadly proportions.
Well, they aren't random. There is a clear pattern. We discovered that in over 50% of cases, the individuals are affected by the same syndrome.
And in an effort to convince the world of his deadly theory, Dr. Kimball has begun testing lethally infected individuals found on the deadly streets of Finnish cities. For the very first time, cameras have been allowed access to his personal secret underground bunker, where he and his team of crack scientists work tirelessly to investigate this potential global killer. Whilst his peers poo-poo the method and ethical validity of his experiments, he maintains that this is in fact a deadly, life-threatening disease, and though some of his subjects are unaware of the potentially damaging nature of the procedures, that this research is fundamental to the survival of the human race as we know it, that without it we will all die horribly in a fiery hell of laughter.
There are three symptomatic waves here. The first symptom is a slightly disconcerting feeling in the pancreas and propensity to find other people's pain amusing, which is also known as the Schadenfreude effect. The second wave is more dangerous. That's the one where subjects start to actively cause pain in other people in order to satisfy their lust for amusement. The third level, I believe, is far more rare. It's a desperate and life-threatening need to amuse others by causing oneself extreme damage. And once an individual has gone level 3, they have a pretty good chance of suffering a lethal self-destructive episode. I wholeheartedly believe that up to 95% of the population are already infected, at least to level 1.
But Professor Helka Lehtinen, a clever historian from the Lethal Grundheim Institute, is not so convinced by Kimball's research.
Kiinni sitä keltaista nappulasta sillä alueella, mistä ääni tulee ja tehdään tämä ääni. Sitten siellä on toinen nappula, josta kuuluu tämmönen whoop!
What did you think of Dr. Lehtinen's criticism?
Complete nonsense.
Trying to map the lethal spread of the current outbreak was very hard, but Dr. Kimball's advanced scientific guessing techniques narrowed it down to a handful of suspects, the current favourite being the African fighting shrew. From here it appears that it spread, firstly through bees, then chickens, llamas, through a reverse mutation to cats, wildebeest, before leaping to golden retrievers, and ending up in a lemon meringue in Leicester. Flemingsberg, not his real name, once had an everyday existence. A senior burrito designer from Helsinki, he liked golf. But his life was inexplicably transformed into a living nightmare as the disease worked its deadly way through his body, racking him with an insatiable lust for self-harm in the name of amusement. Having heard of this extreme case, Dr. Kimball eventually tracked him down to a bridge in Oulu, northern Finland, where he was found swinging by his testicles, singing the Marseillaise.
You can see from just looking at his general demeanour the severity of his pathology.
Last December, Dr. Kimball allowed us almost exclusive access to his latest series of experiments, where he was observing the neurological response of Flemingsberg under semi-controlled conditions. The images obtained were massively ethically compromised in their gratuitous and explicit nature, and in light of Dr. Kimball's shocking, deadly and lethal predictions, and the image's awesome nature, they are now being shown for the first time. Some viewers may find the following experiments deeply unsettling.
So, what exactly were you doing in these experiments?
Mainly exposing people to high voltages.
The experiments were designed to test Flemingsberg's response to other people's pain. Kimball's links with Finnish universities also afforded him another benefit: a steady supply of student volunteers, who for the purposes of double-blind testing could not be informed about the nature of the tests.
The device strapped to the volunteer's hands, that's what we call the toy. It's a wireless device modified from a children's toy that is capable of delivering electric shocks up to about 1,000 volts.
The ECG results clearly show the level of Flemingsberg's response. Terrifyingly, he finds the situation extremely amusing.
But Kimball wanted to take it further.
Kimball needed to see what Flemingsberg's response would be to other forms of painful stimuli on the volunteer. With anticipation of the stimuli, or with the stimuli being unexpected.
Were you not concerned about the volunteer?
We certainly weren't at that point. It was more later on when we started to vary the severity of the stimuli. Flemingsberg responded particularly well to that.
Anybody doubting Kimball's dedication to this theory would have been astounded by his next decision. In order to test the subject's reaction to the pain of an authority figure. And then a stimuli combination was also tested on. Authority, unexpectedness, and repetition. The infected subject was then untied and placed in the containment cell. The volunteer was introduced to the cell and his interactions with the subject recorded. This final controversial experiment was a vital chance to observe how the infected subject would behave when allowed free range to indulge his now highly developed predisposition for inflicting pain. But horrifically, neither the student volunteer nor Flemingsberg survived the ensuing lethal frenzy.
There must be a lot of expectations on you, result-wise.
Yeah.
What were the actual conclusions from the experiment?
Well, the terrible thing is that majority of the data was lost because the infected subject ate the hard drive of the computer.
With no direct conclusions and 2 deaths on his hands, Kimball was universally discredited and shortly afterwards asked to resign from the institute. But this isn't the end of this deadly story. A month after this film was made, terrifying evidence came to light, suggesting that not only was he correct, but that Kimball himself may have become infected by the terrifying and deadly disease he was the first to discover. We leave you to decide. Is this the suicidal act of a discredited scientist on the edge, or the death of a genius, literally consumed by his own work? No matter what conclusions you draw from what you have seen, it is absolutely certain that this disease, Joyous, if it exists, is both lethal and deadly.
When the subject ate the hard drive and suffering major internal hemorrhaging. Well, unfortunately, the majority of the data from the experiments was lost when the subject ate the hard drive, and he suffered major internal hemorrhaging and suffered.
Does your arms stretch if you move them fast?
Does something very weird. There's a laser shadow on the wall.
Well, I can't see much through this, but it's kind of hard to tell whether that's...
That will work actually. Won't take long. Nearly there.
Fuck! Ow!
Okay, are we happy? That's pretty close, isn't it?
That's great, if we can use that.
Well, his face is more than that.
We'll use that for info, talking about who he is and... Really? What the fuck?
Well, maybe mine was overexposed when I did it. Plus the wall's a bit of is a bit of a weird art. Go for it, yeah.
Yeah, that's enough. Ow! Fuck! Okay, pretend I'm waiting now.
Okay, well my nose hurts, so it must have been good. Please tell me that worked. Please tell me that worked. Jesus.